Yo, dude, Bill.
Oh, and there's a TikTok
Yeah.
making big moves.
Yes, I'll just tell you the good stuff. Yes, we've got a TikTok. I uploaded 4 videos in there. So I got my intro that I recorded in the hotel room, standard. Hired a lot of people on Fiverr this week. I took episode 3, which is our first episode, asked 4 different people to just go to town. Take the video and turn it into TikToks, do whatever you want. They came up with totally different perspectives. I put each one of them on my TikTok. I guess I'll do some more as we're warming up the room. And then, and you can use web for TikTok, which is awesome. Whichever ones people like, then I'll just hire that person to make a lot more clips. Oh yeah, let's check out this NFT transfer tool. All right, so we have a website, which we're going to start using more, nft.life. There's a tool here, so I'll just tell you, we just released this. Here's this tool. It's called batch transfer. If you got a bunch of NFTs, currently works on mainnet and Robston. If you got some contract and you want to move like 100 or whatever NFTs to your other contract, your other wallet, or one of your friends or something, what you do is you just paste in here your contract address, you put in your recipient, and then you just paste in all of your token IDs like this. You can use Excel or whatever. You have to approve it, so you have to give access to the contract, and then you transfer, and it's way cheaper. If you buy a Tesla Model 3 using a newly mined Bitcoin, so you mine a Bitcoin and use it to buy a Tesla, about the same price, you're going to damage the environment more than if you bought the original Ford Model T in 1908 and drove it for 100 years on gas. So when you mine Bitcoin, basically it is a Sudoku puzzle, or a huge Sudoku puzzle that your computer is solving. The more computers you plug in, the more puzzles you can solve per minute. That's called the hash rate. This uses electricity. Because we all have access to the same computers, that means that the only difference is how much your electricity is putting into it. You spend more electricity, you get more lottery tickets. I spend more electricity, I get more lottery tickets. Wherever electricity is cheapest, that's where they mine Bitcoin. When I say Bitcoin, I mean Bitcoin, Ethereum, other ones like that. So it's terrible for the environment. It just uses ridiculous amount of electricity. And then that electricity, the worst of all, is that it's in Russia and China where they use coal. So Bitcoin is basically built off of coal. This one's cool because it's the entire Earth is dropping. So it's 1 degree of latitude, 1 degree of longitude. And then you get the whole thing is up for grabs. And so the smart contract includes the randomization, which is a nice fair technique that we can look at. And it's got the vending. And then there's a marketplace too, which is not really interested in that right now. Here's one that I've done the same exact concept before. This one's for Swift. This is for people that want to, it's real specific. It's people that want to make a Swift module to publish for other people to include in their iOS apps. There's a lot of people that want to do that. And so I made this as a template for those people. And so the way this works, so there's an actual template and it's got some, basically it's like I'm helping you sell your product. So I need to have like a demo. A really important thing when you're publishing open source is you really want to tell people like, what is their expectation? You know, are you just like singing in the shower? Are you just like publishing something for yourself? Do you want people to help you? You know, like what's going on here? Even if you're just putting up like, that's the most important thing, because people will see this stuff 10 years later. You can find something I published 10 years ago and I'm still just as excited to continue working on it with you. So I'll tell you that like, this is actively being maintained, even if you haven't seen me in a while. And so I run quite a few open source projects. So I just want to say that like, and for smart contract, that means money. So I'm gonna be committing money here. You know, it takes a lot to start a smart contract. And if you've been to one of my workshops, it's like 1 line of code, you paste it and you feel good and you get your number on the screen, and that's cool. That gets it done. A lot of people launch that way. But really what you should do is you should document your processes. You should have a bug bounty. Here's some best practices that you follow, and you should document your best practices. Oh yeah, let's check out this NFT transfer tool. All right, so we have a website, which we're going to start using more, nft.life. Here's this tool. It's called batch transfer. If you got a bunch of NFTs it currently works on mainnet and Robston. If you got some contract and you want to move like 100 or whatever NFTs to your other contract, your other wallet, or one of your friends or something, what you do is you just paste in here your contract address. It's not very pretty yet. You put in your recipient, and then you just paste in all of your token IDs like this. You can use Excel or whatever. And then you have to approve it. So you have to give access to the contract. You can read the contract. We'll audit it right now. And then you transfer. And it's way cheaper. So the contract is 1 line of code. It's basically just, there's a loop and then it transfers your token. So you don't have to be an expert to audit that. And we have audited it.
and we have tested it so you can actually see other people are using this. So you can see real money. There's transactions against this. And you can click on one of them and you can see this person transferred a whole bunch of 20 tokens in one go. It transferred 20 tokens and it had a cost of 200,000 gas, which is really not bad for transferring 20 tokens. Yeah, and it's pretty cheap. So yeah, spread the love on this. This is a free tool. There's no like fees or whatever, and you can transfer all your NFTs. This is a really cool, way to get exposures for your NFTs. A lot of times there'll be a contract where you send tokens and somebody else gets them and then they have to withdraw them. That's really the best way to do it. The wrong way to do it is you send tokens and then the tokens, the ether, is sent directly to another person. That's the wrong way to do it. You could be sending to a smart contract, and when you send ether, it starts a whole new program that could just do unexpected things. So really the best practice, which is recommended by Solidity, which is the language we use, is to use the withdrawal pattern, and that's where you have a withdrawal function. And that's the only way to get ether out of the contract. Blockchain should be like illegal, most of them. Bitcoin should be illegal. Ethereum should be illegal, as is version 1. If there's not enough water because there's a drought, you can't water your car. That's a normal rule. In terms of electricity, we're like, we're too much carbon, and yet we spend all this carbon on Bitcoin. It should totally be illegal. So we need to stop using computers to solve Sudoku puzzles so you can mine Bitcoin and switch to something else. So governments just don't understand Sudoku. That's the analogy we always use. And so they've failed to make rules around this, and that's why I get in front of governments and I explain this stuff. We should totally outlaw Bitcoin mining, as China has done, and some other countries. I mean, it's already illegal in several countries, and public companies will stop doing it. People will do it, but it should be illegal. The solution is proof of stake, and a lot of people have it, just Bitcoin doesn't, and Ethereum doesn't. Ethereum's working on it. It uses like 0.5% of the world's energy. It's ridiculous. Yeah, they banned it because they use coal for their electricity, and it's literally killing people. So they're like, we could just turn that off. Okay, so basically here's the Earth, and then they split it up in by latitude and longitude, and they're for sale as NFTs. There's a few projects that have worked like this, but what they did was not really random or fair, and so people just bought the best cities, and then the project just has zero traction. This one's cool because it's the entire Earth is dropping. So it's 1 degree of latitude, 1 degree of longitude, and then you get the whole thing is up for grabs. And so the smart contract includes the randomization, which is a nice fair technique that we can look at. And it's got the vending, and then there's a marketplace too, which is not really interested in that right now. So this is a lot of good stuff, and it takes a lot to start a smart contract. And if you've been to one of my workshops, it's like one line of code, you paste it and you feel good and you get your number on the screen, and that's cool. That gets it done. A lot of people launch that way, but really what you should do is you should document your processes. You should have a bug bounty. Here's some best practices that you follow, and you should document your best practices. You can look at Open Zeppelin Contracts as a decent project that's pretty well maintained.
What's your TikTok handle?
Full decent.
Okay.
Cool, thanks. Here's a new Sioux Squares that just got sold. On the top, it's like, and there's one other one that's closer to the corner. I'm planning to make some additions to the Sioux Squares homepage, maybe. Very likely this year.
What types of additions?
We're thinking to have a per square page. So like here's CryptoPunks, here's one page, one CryptoPunk. So we could do that for Sioux Squares, and it could have all whatever details. Yeah, so every square has a NFT ID. So every square has a homepage. And then it'll show the neighbors, stuff like that. All right. So I could write a thing that quantizes down to a tweet size. That would look cool. So you could take your square and you could tweet it. Yeah, so what about this DAO? Are we going to do this DAO? Or this airdrop?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
I actually bought a domain for this, but I just started writing ideas down, and into a manifesto, talking through it kind of helped me come up with a few ideas of a way that we would use this and a way that someone else could use it. And so...
You got that URL?
Hell yeah.
Nice.
Awesome URL, thankyou.wtf.
Yeah.
So it's definitely like positive, but not like corporate. So the idea is that these are soulbound tokens, fungible tokens. Anybody can make them. They're free. There's no money in this project. And thank you comes from somebody and to somebody. So for this, it would be like from community service hour. So we would like have an account for that. And it would go to all the people. A lot of people, they would just make this like an ERC20. Like you would send them and then you count them. Like that's boring. I thought, what if we actually included a message? Like you have to type a message, like actually thanking people for something. I mean, I guess you could type anything, but the things are called thank yous. So, and then it's kind of like whose line is anywhere, the points don't matter. You could attach a number and a message to a thank you. And then this could, so why would I do a thank you? And it's, I got a cop-out answer for that. But basically the idea is, when you're building something like this, there's a big opportunity for it to be boring or for it to be spammy. And so I was trying to think about that a little bit. Like, you know, are thank yous spammy? Do you feel like people thanking you on the street is spammy?
Kinda. I mean, the way I joined the session, even today, I was kind of like, I gave like a very generic, thank you for having me, everybody. It was genuine, but it's still so expected that it's almost kind of spammy in a sense,
So here's how I think it would roll out. If somebody pulls up Rito and they look at, here's Rito's page, thank you, .wtf / Rito's thing, and you hit enter, right? What do you want to see? Do you want to see, I mean, obviously you care about Rito. That's why you looked at this webpage. So any type of thank you that Rito sent, that would show up. Now, what if Rito received a thank you? Well, anybody can send it, and that can be spam, right? So I was thinking that if you receive a thank you, nothing happens. But you could accept it. It doesn't make you friends or anything. You just hit OK. And now if I pull up Rito's webpage, I'm going to see all the stuff that he thank you'd, and then all the thank yous that he accepted, and they show up on his page. So that's what shows up by default. Obviously, you're on his page. Anything he shows is relevant. Anything that he wants there on this page is relevant because he's him. But now, if you log into this web page, then there's a network effect. Anybody that you care about, you will see their thank yous towards Rito.
So I'm trying to think of analogies existing today. It sounds like Twitter ads, but you choose what gets shown on your page or not.
Yep. So there's tweets, and then right now on Twitter, you can't see people tweeting at you. Like I can't pull up somebody on Twitter and see the incoming tweets. You'd have to do a search for that, and search is destroyed. And I can't see who mentioned Daniel. Like, this is not a conversation. I mean, like, what the hell am I looking at? I got a bunch of crap here, promoted tweet, some shit over there. Like, what is this?
Elon will fix it all.
It's kind of like I have a wall, and people are submitting to my wall, but the submissions are not public until I accept it.
Right.
It's a simple but kind of elegant idea. For even though I might get spammed personally, the viewers who are coming onto the wall won't see nothing but spam. So it's an interesting compromise to actually curate some sort of engagement.
There's two reasons we would use this. One is for NFT Web3 Community Service Hour. I've already told everybody, how I value you guys staying on to the end of this call. We've got points figured out for that. We count them and whatever. So those would be, like 10 thank yous or 100 thank yous per call or whatever. Those would show up. You pull up the community service hour, there's thank yous. We can directly use that for voting or whatever. Whatever DAO-y stuff happens with points and tokens, right? And you can't sell them. The second thing is that if we do this in a cool way, you would be able to pull up anybody and get a reputation from them. So if you pull up Rito, you don't know who this guy is. Here's the wall. Is this somebody I want to buy something from? Is this somebody I want to do business with? Is this a website I want to be on? We'll talk about websites in a second. And you're like, okay, well, Daniel's thanking a bunch of other people. That doesn't mean anything. I mean, it means at least that he showed up on this thank you website. Doesn't mean anything more than that. Maybe somebody famous thank you Daniel, and that'll show up on his wall. Okay, whatever. But now, if you log in to thank you, and you follow me, well, now when you pull up Daniel's page, you're going to see something different. You're going to see blah, 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 blah. Here's what Daniel's tooting his own horn. Here's all the things that he received that he posted on here. Oh, but P.S., William's one shows up on top because you know me. So anything from people you know shows on top of anything from people you don't know.
Yeah. So another analogy that comes to mind are LinkedIn recommendations. And this is probably more directly analogous, right? And the LinkedIn recommendations system, I think, is kind of broken because it simply just because it doesn't have any kind of filtering for which recommendations you see. It's kind of meaningless the way they do it now. This could be an improvement on that. Oh, you already thought about that. So
the other thing is there's kind of I don't know if there's like a social norm on this. My understanding is that on LinkedIn, you just follow everybody because it doesn't matter. And then you get famous enough where you stop doing that.
Well, I'm thinking like the LinkedIn, you can write a recommendation to somebody and it's kind of like a thank you.
Yep.
That shows up on their page. You can decide, you get a request when somebody writes a referral recommendation and you decide if you want it to show up on your page or not. But it just gets added to the stack of the recommendations you've received. And I think it's just time ordered and that's it.
That's a good point.
It's a great source of professional FOMO as well.
So I just wanted to get people's thoughts about that. Like, if we're going to do thank you, I know one of the things we don't want to do is follow your friends' friends, because that's now you're in LinkedIn territory, and it's like, what's going on here?
So to add some perspective of my experience with Twitter and the sort of spamminess, so I unfollowed a bunch of people who I wasn't really engaging with. They weren't really engaging back, so I unfollowed them. And yet, they appeared in my feed just as frequently as before. It was as if nothing changed. NFT Twitter with the same people, the same comments. I don't know. Good job.
You need to see
Good job. Yeah, like NFT Twitter apparently it's a very small space, and people that I followed them, so I couldn't get away from them, no matter how hard I unfollowed. The people I did not want to see anymore, that I deliberately unfollowed, I kept seeing them anyway, every day. What did I accomplish by doing that? It was annoying. I feel like I should have had the choice to curate my content by doing the unfollow, and I felt I did not have that power in my hands to curate my feed by unfollowing. It felt like a useless choice.
Some people use lists. People say only use lists.
That's what I do.
Now, here's another thing. Okay, so if you can thank you to a Web3 person, you can also thank you to a web page. Maybe Daniel's not on the crypto Twitter, right? Mm-hmm. I could pull up this web page, and if I have the little browser extension, then it'd be like, oh, I can see things that all of my friends have said about this guy.
I think I've seen a bunch of businesses who try to have like this meta internet, like it's an extension where there's ratings that are supposedly trusted for all the websites you visit. I feel like it's a hard sell to get people to actually use something like that.
There's a couple reasons that it's not going to work. 5 stars do not work. You can't average 5 stars. With a thank you, though, I think it's obvious that we're not comparing, is my thank you bigger than your thank you? Now, there's kind of a trick here. There's kind of I don't know how people use it, but because you can attach points to a thank you, that if somebody puts 0 points on a thank you, that could be like a negative rating. You make something, you don't know how people use it. If someone would be like, this guy's a scammer, 0 points, thank you. Is this even something we need? Do we need reputations? Do we care about another microblogging thing? Does Web3 need something like this? Does any of that matter? Because at the minimum, it's a way to give out points, which is what you want for a DAO. So you don't have to go that far. You don't have to use it for anything. If we give each other points, obviously you could put a little picture on them.
I mean, points are kind of, I feel like that makes it easy to game.
So then they're just thank yous. Now, the points don't add up. That's another thing, is you don't add points. Like, you don't be like, I have 1 million points. You could give yourself 1 million points. Doesn't matter.
But then why even have them?
I don't know. We could remove that. But here's, for voting, if we're going to do
do
anything
you
like
want
now.
to do you want to put this in a doc so folks can comment?
So there's some idea. I put it into the doc. Oh, here's the reason that you want points for a DAO. So like, we were talking about this before, where for community service hour, we do want to put people on a ranking, because if you just show up, maybe that's 100 points. But if you do one of our challenges, that might be like 300 points or 500 points or whatever. And we're thinking to have challenges in community, outreach or whatever. Or we don't have count and we just count how many thank yous. So we would thank you every time you show up. So it'd be like, this guy sent 5 thank yous. I mean, you could just keep clicking the button. You can send as many as you want.
Mm-hmm. Or what if there are somewhat arbitrary limits? Like, you could only send 5 thank yous a day. It brings up an interesting idea. What if a user gets 100 points, over some period, like a day or a week,
Yep.
and they decide how to use them? They can attach that. They can send 100 thank yous, each with 1 point, or they can send 1 thank you with 100 points.
So you want people to log in like every week or something that they're going to have. So points are only going to go up. There's not going to be any minus. We talked about other kinds of reputations on this call where you could have plus points and minus points, but these are thank yous, and thank yous are not negative. There's other ways, like if you use Snapchat, you have streaks. So every day you want to go back and forth.
Yeah, that's an interesting mechanic. Another idea that's coming to mind is Gitcoin passport and proof of humanity and all this stuff. Maybe tying accounts to those types of things could increase, probably not the value of the points specifically, but that's one way to get your thank yous to show up at the top, because it shows that you're a real person with a bunch of real activity attached to it.
We have to recognize we live in a spam world. These things only matter if they're from people you know.
Right.
And if I'm pulling up Rito's webpage here, me looking at 1 million points from Daniel or 20 points from Will, doesn't matter. What's the difference? For a company, maybe there's a ranking or a project for voting. Maybe I'm trying to combine 2 different ideas. Maybe the one thing is, for points, for community service hour, we want to have points because we want to have like a project. When you thank people on the street, there's no number attached to that. I mean, maybe there's a big thank you or a small thank you. Is it the same thing when a company thanks somebody and somebody thanks a company or a group versus when an individual thanks an individual?
A company thanking somebody, I don't know if we'd have to worry about that yet.
Well, and by company, I mean like this. So NFT community service is going to be a group. It's not going to be me.
Like its own account. Yeah.
And then this account. And then this thing can send thank yous out because it represents, us as a community sending. It doesn't represent me personally.
Right. Well, then what is there? Like a Gnosis safe attached to it? Multi-sig thank yous? Yeah, that could work. Yeah, I'm still not sure about the points. I mean, one option is just to try and do the points don't matter approach and just see what happens.
Yep. What if there weren't points, but we just counted the thank yous? And what if we had one account for community service hour check-in? And then every time I send you a thank you, that's just for saying to the end of the episode. But maybe there's also a community service hour project, and then you complete the project, and then you get a project completion thank you.
I'm actually really curious about what it's going to look like when it's out there, because the crypto world, the NFT world, generally speaking, rather toxic. Like, it's just the zeitgeist. And you're coming here with, I wouldn't call this, groundbreaking, revolutionary, technical innovation. It's a simple concept, but it's gratitude. It's this positivity, and you can control it to some extent. I am kind of curious, how people might react to this. Something so simple and positive in this space. It's an interesting idea. Let's see how it's received.
Yeah. That makes me think, so we're calling it thank you, but who knows what people are going to write in the message.
Right. They can write whatever they
Maybe
want.
they'll just use it to hate on people. You can choose to hide it. You can choose not to show it on your page.
If that happens, it doesn't go anywhere.
Right. And there's limited incentive to do that.
Right.
Unless it's it's a celebrity or something that you want to send hate mail to.
And also, remember, you got to pay something to post these.
You gotta pay to post hate mail? Good idea. I like that.
Like, we could post 100 of them, and that could cost, a penny or something. If you're publishing, you're paying. That's how Web3 works. Somehow, this thing has got to get onto the blockchain if it's going to be a Web3 thing.
God, somebody posts to my board, but I still have to accept it. They still paid something. Is this sort of like a WEEF on OpenSea where you're not exactly bidding? You're kind of putting like a tentative bid. You're not would it sort of be like that?
Also, accepting thank yous, that costs money too. So you're not going to log in every day. It's kind of like DeFi, right? You log in once a week or once a month and you click collect and you have to sign that message. You cost a few pennies if you're on Binance or whatever. And then bam, you get your whatever bunny tokens. Or we can build it in a way where we don't put it on blockchain. That's a whole thing too, but now that's not interesting. Probably for this audience, I think this would be like a blockchain thing. I don't know, just put it out there. So here's some ideas. We're looking into this stuff. I do want to give points out to people faithfully showing up.